On this Mother's Day, I can think of no better passage of scripture than 1 Corinthians 13, called the love chapter. This chapter occurs right in the middle of Paul's discussion of the gifts of the Spirit in chapters 12 and chapter 14. One minute, the Apostle Paul is discussing spiritual gifts, such as utterance of wisdom, knowledge, faith, gift of healing, working of miracles, prophecy, discernment of the Spirit. This next, he is concluding chapter 12 by saying, I will show you a more excellent way. And then he jumps abruptly into chapter 13 in what one might consider an outburst of love, emphasizing love as the greatest gift of all. The Corinthians saw the aforementioned gifts as the highest experience of spirituality. Paul shows them a more excellent way. Now faith, hope, abide, but the greatest of these is love. What greater gift could there be for mothers than the gift of love, the love of God? Being a mother has never been easy. Down through the ages, we have known many stories of mothers. Today, we're going to be hearing from five mothers in the Bible who faced tremendous challenges, who did the best they could with God's help and God's intervention. In each case, I believe that there is a takeaway for all of us, whether we are mothers or not, and something that we can apply to our own lives. Listen now to these mothers' stories.
We mothers bear our sons with pride.
We mothers bear our sons with pride.
Nurture and love them.
Hope and plan for them.
But then sometimes they take a different path.
They take a different path and break our hearts.
We mothers always worry.
We mothers always worry,
especially when a son leaves home.
especially when a son leaves home.
And we hear tales of what they're doing. Exaggerated tales, perhaps.
We hope they're exaggerated.
Wandering about,
Bucking the system,
making enemies. When my son was young, people spoke of him as amazingly obedient,
amazingly defiant,
conscientious,
careless, and heartless.
And he grew to be a man of faith,
a man of force,
a man of love,
a man of blood,
a rabbi.
a rebel. My son seemed destined for trouble from the start.
A prophecy about my infant son spoke of rise and fall and rejection.
That's hard for a mother to bear.
And harder yet to see it happen, because
Because
no matter what,
no matter what,
we love our sons.
we love our sons. By the way, I didn't catch your son's name.
Yeshua, some call him Jesus the Christ. And yours?
They call my son Barabbas.
Yeshua, Jesus the Christ. Barabbas, a revolutionary and murderer. The guilty one released, while the innocent one was crucified. My name is Sarah. Well, originally it was Sarai, and I have a story to tell. Much of my life was so distressing. Why, you may ask? Well, you see, God had promised that we would have a son, but it didn't happen. I didn't conceive. I was barren, they said. I hated that word, barren. I was looked down upon, seen as less than, and that is pretty much the way I saw myself. Now, Abraham was a godly man and talked to God on a very regular basis. One day, God appeared to Abraham. At this time, Abraham was 99 years old. God told Abraham that I was no longer to be called Sarai, but Sarah, and that I was to be blessed. I would have a son. I would be the mother of nations. Kings of people would come from me. I was so excited to hear this news. Things were looking up. At least it would happen. I would have a son. I would no longer be referred to as barren. But it didn't happen in a timely manner. I felt betrayed and angry. God had not been truthful, I thought. So I hate to admit this, but I took things into my own hands. I convinced Abraham to sleep with my handmaiden, Hagar. This was often done in our society, so that even if I didn't bear him a child, he would have a child to begin this great nation that he was to be a father of. She was my handmaid, so in a sense, the child would be mine, or so I thought. And indeed she had a child, a son, and named him Ishmael. Though the whole thing was my idea, my plan, once her son was born, I was so jealous I couldn't see straight. I am now so ashamed of my actions. I was impatient. I didn't believe my God was a faithful God who has always kept the promises he made. One day, 3 heavenly beings disguised as travelers came by. Of course, we got busy preparing food for these strangers to eat. Abraham ran to the herd, took one of the best calves, and gave it to our servant to prepare. And I got busy making cakes with choice flour. You know, our faith demands that we serve our best to welcome all strangers that come along. It's what God commands us to do. As I was working, I overheard them talking to my husband. They asked, "Where is your wife?" "In the tent," my husband replied. Then one said, "I will surely return to you in due season, and your wife shall have a son." Well, I couldn't help myself. I laughed. Abraham and I were old. There is no way I would be able to have a child. It was just too funny. These strangers had no idea what they were talking about, or so I thought. It was then the Lord spoke to Abraham and said, "Why did Sarah laugh? Is anything too wonderful for the Lord?" Well, I'm here to tell you, there is nothing too wonderful or too impossible for the Lord. For I did become pregnant and had a son, and we named him Isaac. So what is my advice to you? Wait for the Lord. Wait for the Lord. Don't take things into your own hands. Have faith and wait. Even as I struggled in my faith in God, God blessed me in so many ways. God never betrayed nor forgotten. God didn't see me as my culture saw me, as someone not as good as other women, or less than because of who I was created to be. Waiting for God to act in our lives may be one of the hardest tasks we have to face. But God will answer our prayers in His time and in a beautiful way.
Hi, all of you. I'm so glad you're here and willing to listen to my story. My name is Jochebed. Maybe my name doesn't sound familiar, but I'm the mother of Moses. I was born in Egypt, the daughter of Levi and the wife of Amram, and the mother of 3 children. Bet you know them: Aaron, Miriam, and Moses. I loved all my children. They were all wonderful children, but I knew from the beginning there was something special about Moses, that he was destined to fulfill a special purpose in his life. Little did I know what he would do. It was such a frightening time when he was born. Pharaoh had placed a special edict that said all the midwives were to kill all Hebrew male children at birth. I was lucky I was able to deliver Moses without the assistance of the midwife. And I was able to keep Moses a secret for 3 months. But I didn't know time was running out. It would soon be known I had a living 3-month-old son. I prayed God would give me guidance. I needed a plan to save my youngest child. And that is exactly what happened. God endowed me with wisdom and ingenuity and a bling. Now, it was dangerous. I knew that. It was a risk, but it was my only option. I knew God was with me and that God would be with me and my son and would protect my child. So here's what I did. First, made a basket of papyrus and then covered it in pitch and bitumen to make it waterproof. And then I wrapped Moses carefully and I placed him in the basket and put him in the water. And then I sent my daughter Miriam to make sure he was safe and see what would happen. Now the daughter of Pharaoh and her attendants were bathing in the river, and she saw the basket. She asked her maid, "Bring me the basket." And when she did, they opened it and saw Moses inside. By that time, he was crying. She took pity on him, even though she knew he was a Hebrew child. About this time, my daughter came out of the bushes and went to Pharaoh's daughter and asked most innocently, "Should I go get a nurse from one of the Hebrew women to take care of him?" And Pharaoh's daughter agreed, and my Miriam came and got me, of course, all part of the plan, and I went to the palace. Pharaoh's daughter told me she would pay me wages to nurse my child, my own child. Oh my gosh, but she didn't know. I was so thrilled and thankful that I got to take Moses home with me to teach him about our faith in our God, give him the faith he would need in his life to serve God. What a blessing. All too soon, it was time to take him to the palace, as I promised. Though it was hard to allow him to move into the palace of Pharaoh, I knew it saved his life. It would also afford him many opportunities. I knew in my heart my son would help our people as he served our God. I felt buoyed in my faith, lifted up higher than I had imagined. I know our God is with me and hears my prayers, and I remember these words. The Lord shall renew our strength, and we shall mount up with wings like eagles. We shall walk and not faint. God is with us. Thanks be to God.
Some people come into our lives and quickly go. Some stay for a while with footprints on our hearts, and we are never ever the same. Those words, my dear friends, describe my daughter-in-law Ruth to a T. Let me introduce myself. My name is Naomi. I am originally from Bethlehem of Judah, God's country. That's what my dear husband, Amalek, called it. Our two sons, Milan and Keelan, were born there. Life was good. We were so happy. That is until the famine ended our lives. It was horrible. The land just dried up and nothing would grow. Soon there was nothing to eat. We realized we had no choice. We had to leave this place we called home. Where would we go? We heard from others that there was food in Moab, but Moab? Immoral, incestuous, were among the words we heard when people described Moab. But Moab was the place with food, so Moab was the place we went and we settled. Our boys grew up all too soon and took wives, Moabite wives, Orpah and Ruth. I'll have to admit at first I wasn't happy, not happy at all. But with time I grew to love those two women as I would love my own daughters. Soon I would know just how close they would be. First, my dear Emily died. And then, just when I thought I couldn't handle any more, both my dear sons, Milan and Keelan, died. How difficult life had become, I grieved so. I seemed to have lost all I had ever loved, my homeland, my dear husband, and now my beloved sons. I decided I needed to return to Judah. The Lord heard the cries of my people, and there, once again, plenty of food in my homeland. At first, Orpah and Ruth started out with me. Return to your mother, stay in your homeland, I said to them. Orpah took my advice and turned around and stayed in Moab, but Ruth continued with me. Why do you stay with me? I asked her. I have no longer sons for you to marry. Be like your sister-in-law and go back home. It was then that she turned to me and said the most beautiful words. Do not press me to leave you or turn back following you. Where you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. And with those words spoken, we never separated again, even through the most difficult of times. God brought us together, and we would stay together. The meaning of my name, Naomi, is sweetness. Funny, isn't it? With all the bitterness I have known in my life, but with all the bitterness, there has come much joy and learning. So here is some advice I pass on to you this day. Savor every day you spend with all your family, your spouse, your children, parents, cousins, all of them. Cherish them. Show them how much you love them. And one more thing. Be open to accepting others who become like family to you, those not even biologically related. Even those whom you think may be the most unlikely can become family. God gave us the gift of love and the ability to love one another. May we accept this gift with open hearts, love one another.
For me, a Mother's Day sermon is one of the most difficult to preach. And this is for several reasons. This is my second day without my own mother, and I miss her every day. I know that there are others here who are now without their mothers. Maybe you lost her recently, or maybe it was a long time ago. Some maybe lost their mothers at a very young age and had no one to step in and fill that role adequately for them. So you struggled as a child. Another reason it's a difficult day is that there are women who have always wanted to have children, but for whatever reason were not able to. Then there are those who were treated badly or abused by their mothers, or maybe disowned by their mothers, and who are estranged from them. This makes this day hard for both mother and child. Other women have lost children to death, a loss that is forever mourned. When we think of Mother's Day, we realize that not all have experienced the love that we talk about on Mother's Day. However, I believe that there is also much to be celebrated on Mother's Day. In many churches, this day is also called the Festival of the Christian Home. I like that name because it emphasizes that families can include a wide variety of people. A day that celebrates not only traditional families, such as mom, dad, and 2 kids, who look pretty similar to one another, but we also celebrate families who are much more varied than that. We celebrate families whose parents adopted the children, and in return, the children adopted them right back. Families with step-parents and stepchildren. Families whose children divide their time with their respective parents in different homes. Families with single moms or single dads, raising the children all on their own. Families with 2 moms and 2 dads. Families whose members come in a variety of colors, races, nationalities. Families with stand-in parents. Families who include the children of other family members. Families where grandparents or other family members stand in the parental role. Families that include 2 or more generations in the home. Families that may include aunts and uncles and sisters and brothers or other family members in the home. Or families comprised of people not even biologically related at all, but still are very much family. And I'm sure that there are other family configurations that I haven't even thought of. So what is the common denominator needed for all of these families? Love. Of course, it's love. The kind of love that gives to others, puts others first, sacrificial love. Here's an example of sacrificial love. A teacher asked a boy this question. Now, suppose your mother baked a pie, and there are 7 of you, your parents, and 5 children. What part of the pie would you get? A 6, replied the boy. I'm afraid you don't know your fractions, said the teacher. Remember, there are 7 of you. Yes, teacher, but you don't know my mother. She would say, I don't want any pie. This type of love is the kind of love that provides the basis for great family relationships. It also is the type of love that provides a foundation for the basis for a church that lives out the love taught and shown by the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. One Sunday, a lady was inviting children to come to Sunday school when she met a boy and invited him to come to their church. The boy replied that he already went to another church. The woman said that church is so far away. There are plenty of other churches right here close. Yes, said the boy, but those churches aren't for me. I will continue to go to my church. Why? The woman asked. Because, replied the boy, they really know how to love a fellow there. Isn't that the kind of love our church strives to share? A church who really shows love to all people, no matter what their race, color, creed, sexual orientation, gender identity, political stance, no matter who they are. This is the love that Paul was talking about in the love chapter of 1 Corinthians. A love that is greater than any other gift. The love that was taught to us by Jesus as he walked the earth. A love that he showed. A love that he lived. And set the example of how we are to love and how we are to live. Though it's May, I'd like to close with this Christmas version of 1 Corinthians 13. If I decorate my house perfectly with plaid bows, strands of twinkling lights, and shiny balls, but do not have love, I am just another decorator. If I slave away in the kitchen, baking dozens of Christmas cookies, preparing gourmet meals, and arranging a beautifully adorned table at mealtime, but do not have love, I'm just another cook. If I work at a soup kitchen, help in a nursing home, and give all that I have to charity, but do not have love, it profits me nothing. If I trim the spruce with shimmering angels and crochet snowflakes, attend a myriad of holiday parties, and sing in the choir's cantata, but do not focus on Christ, I have missed the point. Love stops the cooking, helping the child. Love sets aside the decorating to kiss the spouse. Love is kind. Though harried and tired, love does not envy another's home that has coordinated Christmas china and table linens. Love does not yell at the kids to get out of the way, but is thankful that they are there to be in the way. Love does not give only to those who are able to give in return, but rejoices in giving to those who cannot. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails. Toys will break. Pearl necklaces will be lost. Golf clubs will rust. But giving the gift of love will endure. Amen.